Hello. We are starting late because that's what we do sometimes. Good morning to all you folks that are out there. Welcome to the Erskin Music Show. We got a special guest coming on today here, so I'm going to get out of the way as fast as we possibly can. But I must say good morning to everybody that's out there. As we race ahead, I'm using a lot of race analogies today, a lot of car analogies because you probably aren't going anywhere today. Got no gas? Hey, just dig in, listen to the show. All we need is an hour of your time, and all will be well throughout the course of the day. I know. There's a lot of saber rattling that's going on out there. They got bombs flying in Israel. There's no gas in a lot of the country, and things are not looking that good these days. But the Erskin Music Show, especially based on what happened yesterday, I think we're like a rocket ship going up and away into the stratosphere. And so I want to say good morning to all you guys that are out there, especially those guys who are viewing on Facebook Live. We recognized last week, due to some advanced analytics, or you guys just getting in the comment section, that we have an international audience that's tuning in. So I have no idea what time it is of the day, but there are folks that are tuning in on Facebook Live who are joining us, and I so appreciate, especially those of you who are staying up to like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, or you're already up and you're finding this show and you're tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. For all the regulars that are here, seemed like 8 o'clock was a good time, so we might move the show to 8 o'clock for the last couple of weeks. What do you know? Can I get an opinion poll? Is there anyone out there? Because John says he has to go to work at 9, and most everybody else has to go to work at 9. I don't know why I picked 9, because I thought maybe I should go to work at 9, but I think really the show should start at 8 o'clock. Who's with me? Raise your hand out there, or send me an emoji or whatever. I want to also thank those of you who are joining us on the YouTube platform, as that has been known to be an international audience, and those who watch it a little bit later, and for the pastors and folks that are out there, what's up on YouTube? And for Twitch, you guys tried to get me yesterday by planting a virus on my show. I didn't take the bait. But for those of you who are gaming right now, I hope you guys are enjoying your gaming. Just put us on in the background, and I think you will enjoy what it is that you hear. A little longer format here. We haven't chopped these things up just yet, so that we get little bite-sized pieces, but that's coming. That's the evolution of this show. So you guys will remember the long stream show, and then you'll start seeing popping up on YouTube some shorter sound bites and some things that are going on here. And so dig in. It's the Erskin Music Show. If you don't know anything about who Erskin Music is, that's Big Head in the background. He looks a little bit like me. There's some merch in the background. Ruby and Scooby are hanging up on the wall. They're not real people because we don't hang people up on the walls. That's not this show. But yeah, that's my merch line. And so music artists in Nashville, Tennessee, travel around the world. And so that's why we have an international audience that views us. And yeah, so go check out some music on YouTube after the show is over. Wanted to just very quickly, a couple of housekeeping notes before we get to our guest today. We are going to be moving the Way Forward show, which is the weekend show that I do with Jason Plummer, pastor in Litchfield, Illinois, to tomorrow. So if you're used to listening to this show and you're enjoying the content of what you get, then tomorrow is going to be almost like a bonus. We usually do it on Saturday, but we're going to implant it tomorrow because I've got a retreat that I've got to be on and going to be focused this weekend. And so we're going to talk about race, politics, and religion, and probably do the third installment of a series that we are doing with interviewed pastors around the country on the subject of race and religion. We may get into some of that today with our special guest. And so don't be surprised if we go there today. Based on our comments yesterday, I wanted to say this just as a note from my heart to your heart for all those that are viewing yesterday and saw that we were chopping it up pretty good when it came to the subject of women in ministry and vaccinations. I mean, we were going at it. And I will say, of all the audiences, at least that I've seen, this is the kindest audience, the gentlest audience that I've ever seen. And so I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate the snarky comments. The snarkier, the better. But I do appreciate the fact that you guys challenge, you push a little bit. Sometimes we dogpile a little bit, but that's okay. We're Americans. That's how we do things. That's the context that we live in. But audience has always been very respectful. And so I do appreciate you guys. Keep that energy. There might be some things that we say today that you don't necessarily agree with. The only thing that I would ask is, because the context sometimes gets messed up, like me and John yesterday, I maybe I didn't handle that correctly because I can't filter through all the comments quick enough to figure out what exactly is being said. That being said, there is about a 10-second delay as I've sort of had people watching this and then timed out how much time it takes for me to actually connect. And so if you're going to say, hey, Erskin, you're an idiot, or that was a dumb comment, or I totally disagree with you, I may have moved on to something else by that point. And so please let me know exactly what it is that you're disagreeing with, or what it is that you love, or just give a comment and say hi. as some of our folks in Michigan do. And so thank you. Thank you to all of our supporters out there. Thank you for all your prayers. Let's get myself out of the way so when we get our guest, he is at the doorbell. It is John Avant. He's ringing. Let's not keep him at the doorbell much longer. Let's get him on the show. Welcome, sir, to the Erskin Music Show.
Hey, my friend. How are you?
How are you today?
Great, man. Great. Glad to be with you.
Yes. Excited to finally get you on the show. I know I've asked you about 10 times. And we've had to keep pushing it back.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know what? Whenever he can come, it is going to be a barn burner.
Man, we're just so great to be with you, man. I just love what God has done in our friendship and excited to share this show. Thankful for your leadership, man.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into some of your leadership, but maybe as a segue into that, maybe you could tell the audience this morning, like John and Donna, they are so precious to us, their family, much like the Ripkins that have invested not only in ourselves personally, but in our kids' lives. And for them to know who you are and to ask about you and to have a relationship with you is just so special as a parent. But take us back, because there was a time when we were complete strangers and maybe in the most awkward but advantageous way, God was working that out. And maybe from your vantage point, tell a little bit of the story of how we met one another and why we know one another.
Yeah, we have a mutual friend who I think supports both our ministries. I'm the president of a ministry called Life Action. And he just kept telling both of us, we got to meet, Erskin, you got to meet John, you got to meet Erskin. And I respect this guy like crazy. So I told my assistant at some point, hey, let's get this on the calendar. And I travel 200 plus days a year, but our house is in Knoxville. So we're not that far apart, from Nashville. And so Erskin was came to Knoxville to see me. And I see lots of people, and I'm always talking to people. I love relationship with people. And so had this meeting with this guy, Erskin, and I pull up to the parking lot of the restaurant, and I realize I can't remember who this guy is or why we're meeting or what the purpose of the meeting is.
Yeah.
And I'm on my phone with my vice president talking, and I see this guy out of the corner of my eye. I bet that's him in his car sitting there. And I told my vice president, Ben, I said, hey, I got a lunch meeting. I'm embarrassed. I don't remember the guy's name. I don't know why we're meeting, what it's for. And Ben knows how God works in my life. And he goes, yeah, it's probably going to change your life forever. And sure enough, I think I canceled 2 meetings afterwards as you and I started talking, because it was like a brother from another mother, and it's gone on from there to some really cool partnership.
Yeah. I remember that sense as well, as just saying, Lord, I've come out here. I don't know what the expectation is, but I'd already kind of prepared myself. If this meeting and nothing happens in this meeting, I just share a little bit about what you've done. I want to make sure that I share it in a way that I am celebrating the fact that you are a good God and that you have good purposes and that you've allowed me the privilege of being able to serve you. And then however John receives that, it'll be an encouragement to me, no matter what. And so we had a great meal, great conversation. We continued talking, and it was just kind of one of those things where your wife had gone through cancer, my wife had gone through cancer, your perspective on revival, my perspective on revival and evangelism, your perspective on race and reconciliation, my perspective. It was like we were just coming together on every point. And I'm literally sitting there looking across the table and thinking, I'm talking to myself.
It was weird. Yeah, I felt the same way. It's like, what is going on here? And I think I'm too weird and strange to have too many people that I sit across from, and I feel that way. But man, it's just such you're a gift, and I'm very thankful to the Lord for our relationship.
Well, I put the banner in the show notes for everybody today, but I also put Life Action Ministry down with the ticker across the bottom of the screen, just so you guys can plug into that and you guys can see or do more research on Life Action if you've never heard about them before. You're the president of Life Action. Could you explain a little bit of what Life Action is for those that perhaps don't know, and we got an international audience that maybe has never heard of Life Action before? You let us know who that is, and then maybe how that's connected to some other ministries that people may have heard of before?
Yeah, we were talking with some of our leadership yesterday. I'm actually in Michigan, where we have our international mission center where I'm sitting right now, and our we have a camp, family camp, a leadership lodge. A lot of cool stuff happens here, but I travel 200 plus days a year, so I'm not here that much actually. But we were talking yesterday about how hard it is to give our elevator speech. We're a 50-year-old ministry. Ministered to huge percentage of evangelical churches in America at some point or the other over half a century. But it's still hard to explain what we do. Our simple mission is to inspire people to say their next yes to God. But our bigger vision, we talk about millions of people, millions of God astonished lives, we say, in action with Him,
Hmm.
shattering divisions, injustice, and lostness. So that's our big dream. The way we really do what we do, we, as I said, we have a family camp. It's about to open up for the summer. We're thrilled. A leadership lodge. We minister to pastors and others when they need a break, when they're hurting, or just need a respite. But and we've got material and resources, but we're best known for a very unique thing we do. We send teams of 20 to 30 people, mostly college age missionaries who just surrender a year or more of their life and say, we want to give it away to the Lord, raise their own support. We all raise our support. And it's like the Jesus movement never ended. We put them on a bus. We got two families that live in trailers that we furnish that go with them, and we go help churches, colleges, seminaries, missionaries, anyone the Lord leads us to, give them a respite and a chance to really hear God. So it's pretty cool. We bring in essence, a preschool camp experience, a children's camp experience, a student camp experience, a worship team, teaching teams, sound, lighting. Everywhere we go, it looks like the circus has arrived in town with trucks and everything. But what it allows people, churches and colleges and universities, missionaries to do is to stop and have nothing they have to do except rest, hear God speak. So it's been mainly churches over half a century, but now God's opening the door for colleges, seminaries. We serve Southwestern Baptist Seminary for 3 days, Union University. And this fall, we're serving Houston Baptist, tremendous, diverse, growing campus. Howard Payne University, where I was a part of a revival God brought that spread across the nation to collegiate revival 26 years ago.
Hmm.
So we'll be there, 3 days there, 4 days at Houston Baptist. So that's the quick elevator speech. It's very hard to know what we do until you experience it. But a lot of lives get changed. A lot of cool things happen. And we're praying that God will continue that in the days ahead in greater ways.
Yes, a very unique ministry and a very important ministry. I got it for you. I got it, John. Here we go. We do. You guys, you refresh, reset, and revive ministries that you come in contact with.
Hey, you're
All by
hired, man. You're
Yes,
hired for marketing.
bang. all while helping them to say yes to God. And so it's a
Yeah.
forward moving progress. And so tell all the teams that are out there. I don't know if any of them are going to watch this today, but tell all the teams out there that we said hello. And Lenny and I and the band were up in Pennsylvania last weekend, and it was just a tremendous time. And we really have appreciated the support and encouragement from the teams that were out there, and then being able to join you guys up in Buchanan, Michigan, for the Seek Week last year.
Yeah.
And that was just a tremendous time. Just great students, great leaders, great organization. You guys are connected to a couple of other organizations that people may have heard of. Talk a little bit about what that partnership looks like and where you guys fit in that blockchain of impactful ministries.
Yeah, we call ourselves a house of brands, and maybe a ministry out there that needs to be a part one day of who we are and what we do. So we've got tremendous facility up here, and HR, and finance, and all the things that I'm not very good at. And so they serve three ministries, and we hope it'll be five, a dozen, 100, however many the Lord wants. Ministries that are overarching goal is to ignite movements of authentic Christianity. So we also serve together with One Cry, an international prayer ministry. I actually oversaw the National Day of Prayer this year, and Revive Our Hearts. Some of you know the name Nancy Lee DeMoss Wolemuth, and she heads Revive Our Hearts. Tremendous women's ministry, revival ministry, international in scope. So between the three of these ministries and more to come, it's pretty exciting ride.
Yeah. I enjoyed meeting folks up there who were a part of those ministries while we were there. It's kind of like the people that I hear on the radio and the people that I've listened to for years, actually being able to stand in a room with them and shake their hands and get to know them. Tremendous ministries to be a part of there. And Life Action is a brand sponsor of Erskin Music. And so that just means they like me. And I get a chance to partner with them from time to time. And we speak very well and very highly of one another.
Yes. Yes.
Wanted to jump into some topics today, if you don't mind, because you're a man who has a tremendous story. And I think maybe the place where we could establish, at least walking up this trail together, is the whole subject of race and reconciliation has come up, is up, continues to be up, will continue to be up because of the way that education has been reformulated in our society, and some of the critical race theory and some of the things that are going on in churches and in our culture and society and identity politics. And so it's kind of inescapable to have that conversation. Where in the midst of revival, because that's a lot of what you do, have you run into this idea of reconciliation, how to have the conversation, where to have the conversation, how you've seen people having the conversation? I just want to throw that to you. And maybe if you could flavor that a little bit with your background to be able to speak into some of these issues and have a unique platform.
Yeah. We have a brand new staff member, tremendous African-American leader. And he and I were just sharing yesterday. And Erskin, I told him, his name is Juwan Wilson. I said, you guys have got to meet, because he said something that I said, man, this is right in line with what we talk about all the time, what Erskin and I talk about all the time, that if you look at the things Jesus said that he desires, unity that will lead others to Jesus. It's John 17. When he says that's what he wants, that's probably what we ought to go after, instead of arguing about our position, which I think is often very pride-based, got to be right, got to have a label, got to have a tribe, all these things. Well, Jesus said, no, I'm praying that you're unified so the world will know who I am. And we believe that the best possibility for a great spiritual awakening in America will be a miraculous movement of God across racial lines. Again, that's what Jesus said he wanted. If the world were to begin to see the terrible divide in which we find ourselves result in a move of God's Spirit, where people said that can't happen. No, nobody else can pull this off. Governments can't. All the arguments, all the tribes, nobody can pull it off. So if somehow those people are coming together in unity, I got to check out why. And if the why is Jesus, then we're getting close to what we mean by revival. The word doesn't mean a lot to most people. It means new life, movements of new life. Man, what if that were to happen across racial lines in our day? So, my background, my dad was raised in the middle of really acute racism in Alabama, and saw a young black man beaten almost to death because he got a drink from a water fountain that my dad had no problem drinking from, and it changed my dad, and he raised us to think differently. My wife and I in college were discipled by an African man, not an African American man, who was killed in a tragic accident. He was the most brilliant man to this day I've ever known. Spoke 7 languages, PhD, 2 masters, PhD. And I watched him, how he faced racism, how he handled it, how he would respond to people who couldn't hold a candle to him intellectually and treated him like a boy, and would use words like that. It made me so angry. But, he would constantly challenge me. Are you just going to be angry, or are you going to do something that will make a difference?
Need to hear that.
Yeah. And when he died, hallelujah. When he died, it changed my wife and I. And we said, Lord, if there's any way somehow we could be a part of change in race relations in America, please let us. And, quick version of some of the things the Lord has done. Some people know of a movement called the Brown Wood Revival, not Brownsville, but Brown Wood, 26 years ago.
That's an important distinction.
Yeah, I mean, I don't criticize other movements, but the movement I was a part of was there was certainly revival phenomena, but it was really more based on repentance, unity, and a missional heart change. And broke out in our church in Brownwood, Texas. Howard Payne University spread to Bill Bright at the time said 100 college campuses. Is a book you can get on Amazon called Revived, that it's a 20-year edition and kind of traces what happened. But in our city, God brought together black, white, Hispanic. It changed our city, changed our life, and we saw God work. I remember asking an African American pastor in our city, "What's different now that this movement has come to our city?" And he said, before the revival, he said, if I was walking on the street and one of your church members was walking toward me, he would go to the other side of the street to not have to approach me, frightened of me, not wanting to relate to me. He said, now, if I'm on this side of the street and one of your members is on the other, we compete to see who crosses so we can get on the same side, give each other a hug, and talk about what God is doing.
Wow.
And so toward the end of the phenomena of that movement, God gave us an opportunity to move to a church in Georgia. That one of the main reasons we moved there, New Hope Church in Fayetteville, Georgia, was that it was an all-white church in the middle of a mostly black community. And I was pretty naive, but I thought, man, this will be a chance to take what God has done in revival and see it flesh out, and we'll become a church that looks like heaven. And that happened, but not without near death. I mean, it was really, really
He
hard.
actually means that.
Yeah, I mean, there were death threats. There was, front page headlines. I mean, it was a very difficult season for a while. Today, man, that church, they support us and our ministry. The pastor's a dear friend, and the church has became, while we were there, very diverse, mostly black and white together, and has continued that path. But out of that, a lot of cool things happen, a lot of relationships, and some funny things. Erskin, that I was given an award from the African American community of Atlanta. Long story short, when we showed up to receive it, big black tie event, 1,000 people there, they thought I was black, and they had not done all their research. So I received a letter from like the governor's office naming me one of the influential black pastors in Atlanta. And out of that, I began to get invitations to speak to historic black churches, Georgia Senate, House, other states. So those years that were both challenging and wonderful opened doors that have never stopped for us, of saying, Lord, we want in on the revival you bring that's going to heal this terrible divide in our land.
Yeah, that's a very funny story. Hearing you tell that and hearing you share that, you have a lot of black pastor credentials that I probably will never ever be able to obtain or get close to. And I think that's a funny way that God, in his providence and in his care, and sometimes in his humor, kind of puts us in position to be an influencer in ways that we would have never maybe even thought about it or planned.
Yes.
I want to do this. I spoke in Memphis the other day to a group of pastors who were there. We had spent some time with them a little bit earlier on in the year. Some tremendous things are going on in Memphis and Louisville, all over the country that people don't know about. We can talk a little bit about that, but I wanted to kind of hone in, maybe if we could, for just a few minutes on what's going on with pastors, because you talk to a lot of pastors. You have a lot of people who get in contact with you. And I want to just kind of hear from you the state of what's going on with pastors, some of the current controversies that are out there, and then just share a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about what it is that I've been sharing with pastors and trying to encourage people in church planning. And if we have time, which we probably won't, I finally got an opportunity to watch half of Sheep Among Wolves Part 2, Volume 2.
Yeah.
And so really powerful stuff. If you guys don't already know it, God is moving and he's doing some incredible things even now, even today. So don't underestimate the power of God despite the headlines that you see. This is the Erskin Music Show, so we're going to take about a 2-3 minute break. We're going to listen to some Erskin music, and then we're going to come back with John. If you can stay with us. Yes? John?
Me? Oh,
Yep.
absolutely, man. I ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. So hang out for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we won't go a full hour. Just be about 45 minutes today because I'm recording in the studio and got to get to the studio this morning. Yesterday, I did the show a little bit earlier because I was on set recording a commercial. I can't tell you what commercial that is until it actually comes out. Just kind of Actors Guild kind of thing. But I will be in the studio today, so continue to pray about that. This is the Erskin Music Show. We're going to take a quick pause, listen to some Erskin music. Subscription button, hit it, like it, notification. If you like the show, it'll come up as soon as you hit that notification button. So take a quick pause. We're going to come back with John in just a few minutes.
Say, is it time to run or is it time to stay? Is there anyone or anything that would take all you got to get everything? Your heart's pumping, no stopping, like a tidal wave that keeps coming. You're running and running for something, yeah. You're gonna make it some way. Do yeah, yeah, yeah. Do what you gotta do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do what you gotta do. Tell everyone, everywhere. Go hard or go back from where you came. It's a big deal. This is so real. Can't stop it now. It's such a great bumping, no stopping, like a tidal wave that keeps coming. You're running and running for something, yeah, yeah. You're gonna make it some way, somehow. No one's gonna keep you down when you know what you're supposed to do. Then go do what you gotta do. What you gotta do, yeah, yeah, yeah. We can see the other side. Don't give up and don't stop trying. No matter what's in front or what's behind, you're gonna make it some way, somehow. No one's gonna keep you down when you know what you're supposed to do. And go do what you gotta do. Some way, somehow. I know you can turn it around when you know what you're supposed to do. And go do what you gotta do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do what you gotta do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go do what you gotta do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do what you gotta do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go do what you gotta do.
Yes, I should unmute the mic.
There we go.
Sorry, when I did the notifications thing, the mic got muted. So anyway, sorry about that. But I was saying, you travel around the country like I do, and you get a pulse for different pastors and ministries that are out there. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? I know there's people still working through COVID and the whole situation with masks and the whole situation of do we close or not close. Coming out of that, we're now, at least for the Southern Baptist Convention, talking about women in ministry again. We are encumbered with a variety of scandals that are out there, pastoral suicide. What are you hearing out there, and what's giving you reason for optimism as you travel around and hear different stories of different ministries?
Yeah, it's been pretty tough with COVID, and the time I spend with pastors has always been significant. But man, it's become perhaps the major part of my time. I think some studies have shown about half of all pastors have been considering quitting over the last few months or the last year. But that, I think, is beginning to turn. And some of it's anecdotal, but in our ministry over the last few months, we've seen people wanting to gather again, people dealing with less fear and more passion to see what God's going to do because of COVID. Erskin, you and I talked about the fact that it really feels like Reformation is happening in the church in America. We just don't know what we'll reform into yet. And as you and I talk a lot, we're in the midst of perhaps the greatest spiritual awakening in the history of the world. It just, you got to get on an airplane to see it if you live in America. Or sometimes you got to dig to even know about it, because all you hear about on the news is politics and war. But nations are being changed and shaped by what God is doing. Places where we've never seen it before, like Iran and places like this. So we're starting to hear pastors and saying, you know what, we can do what we want to right now. We can make changes we've never been able to make before in our churches. Everybody expects change, and some of the folks that would have thought about it before are gone. They're not coming back. About a third of most churches, statistically, not anecdotally, are saying we're not coming back. We're done with church. Okay, let's bury cultural Christianity. I got the shovel. I'll help. Now we have a chance, I think, for a remnant revival with people who actually are going to be following Jesus and a part of disciple-making movements. I think there's a mix. You got pastors that are go back to ministry. I'm called to ministry, but I can't do it as a pastor in this country. I get that, but I don't think we ought to despair to that point, because I know of a lot of churches now that are making wholesale changes and saying, all right, what do we need to do to look like Acts 2 and Acts 4, that kind of community of passion, unity, faith, and missional living again. And they're making the changes to go after that. I'm also hearing a couple things very interesting that, again, are not just anecdotal, but we're seeing it statistically. Churches are doing pretty well financially, even though they have a lot less people, which may say to us that those that are participating and coming and a part of a real community of faith are becoming more committed to stewardship of time, money, life, all of that, which is good news. And what's really cool in recent months, I'm looking to see if this bears out statistically, but I am convinced it's not just anecdotal, because everywhere I go, and I go everywhere in this country and beyond when they'll let us, we're hearing this. New people are showing up in large numbers, some of them completely unchurched, some of them coming out of de-churched kind of situations. But it reminds me of post 9/11, but I think it's got more legs to it. 9/11, people came back for a few weeks and remembered why they had left in the first place or why they didn't go to church. We lost that chance quickly. I think we're going to have a longer period of opportunity where people are going, okay, can I find Jesus in church? And can I walk with him outside of the building and is there real community that'll go with me? And that's why right now, what I'm saying to pastors and anybody that'll listen, I'm screaming it at the top of my lungs. It seems counterintuitive, but all of our debates and our labels and our parties and our tribes, this is not going to fix things.
Yeah.
And if we want to do that, fine. I mean, do we really think that if I wake up tomorrow morning and go, hey, God, man, I know you're glad I'm awake because I'm right in all of my perspectives about culture and theology, and I'm going to help you out here, God. So I know you're glad I'm awake today. I'm going to do big things for you. Hang on, God, we'll be all right. How stupid is that? Jesus called us to unity and mission, unity and mission, unity and mission. And so I'm resisting labels. I'm resisting being pigeonholed in almost any way. I want to listen. I want to grieve with those who are hurting. I want to learn. And then I want to join Jesus. There is a third way, I'm convinced, in the midst of all of our debates and often our stupidity and our pride. There's a third way. It's a gospel way. And I want to find it and join it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. It's John Avant. The comment section is turned on. He's got a lot of fire because he's a revival preacher. And I expect that kind of fire on this show. That's why you're on this show, brother. And because we love you. Man, just so many things that you said that I wanted to kind of jump in and just maybe add a little gasoline to the fire, because I think that for a lot of our conversations today, not that they're not important, but sort of the methodology of the 90s, 2000s, 80s was for us to take an issue and like really combat that issue and like expose the things that are out there. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be knowledgeable about what's going on, but we have more knowledge than we even know what to do with in America. If you want to do a series or find any type of information about anything, it is all available and it is all out there. And so I think you're right when you say that there are a lot of our conversations sort of devolve, especially from the Christian leadership vantage point. They devolve into, now we've got to attack this group over there. Now we've got to attack this group over here. Now we've got to defend this over here. And the world is sitting back a little confused as to why both of these groups would call themselves Christians, but now they're fighting against one another. And I don't know that we have time for messing around with that.
Yeah. And, I'm not talking about either an over spiritualized kind of pietism where we sit around and all we do is pray and this is God's problem. We'll do nothing. Where God is moving powerfully today, the church is making a difference. There are many missiologists and observers, even politicians, even people I know from the military community that believe, for instance, the government of a place like Iran may very well fall in the days ahead, partly due to what God is doing in the church, in Iran, where there was almost not a church for forever. And now it's exploding. Mosques are emptying. Disciple-making movements are happening. But, they don't have a lot of ability in Iran to wake up in the morning and go, today, I'm going to win the argument. I'm going to beat the opponent. And they have a greater opportunity for prison and suffering and death. And yet the government of Iran is terrified of what God is doing among his people there. And that's just one country we could talk about. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of our problem in this country is I wrote a book years ago called If God Were Real. We act like we don't believe him. We act like we live like atheists. And, if we really believe that God is at work, if we join him in what he says matters most, unity, barrier breaking, mission and evangelism, why do we not believe that he can break in at any moment to all of our junk and our crud and our crap and say, okay, now there's my people that decided to stop arguing with each other and trying to be right and fix all the problems. Now I'll move. Now I found a remnant I can use. I'm seeing that beginning in various places, even in this country. I want in.
Yeah, that's definitely As you talk about that, it's not us giving up our minds or just sitting around and just singing kumbaya and we'll ignore things, but it is figuring out how to be on mission constantly and figuring out how the Lord takes the Great Commission and so infuses it in our life. When I was watching some of the videos that you had recommended for me to watch, I was again struck with some of the same things that I come away from when I'm listening to Nick Ripken, and studying missionaries who have lost everything and lost their lives for the sake of Christ. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain possession of what he cannot lose. And then from some of our time overseas, recognizing, man, if you're in a population that has only 2% Christian, people aren't sitting around arguing and trying to settle all these debates about what style of music we need to listen to and whose music is better than the other one and so on and so forth. Like, those are issues that you've got to come to some conviction about. But at the same time, the mission is right there in front of you and it's undeniable. And I think a lot of times when we've lost sense of what the mission is and how God is using us to accomplish that, I've been saying a lot recently, John, that there's, no JV Christians that are out there. Like, John, you're on the A team, but like the rest of us, we're like kind of on the B team. We're waiting for God to put us in the game, and so we have something to do, and so we're just kind of waiting around. Nah, there's no JV Christians that are out there. All of us have been placed where God has put us for such a time as this, with the gifts, talents, and abilities, talents and treasures that God has given us for the sake of making an impact for the kingdom of God. We just need to say yes to God and figure out what He's doing with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's not a passivity. But it is a belief that when we pray, he answers. He says in John 15 in a plural way, not singular. He's talking to the church, not just an individual. He said, if you ask in my name, I'm gonna give you what you're asking for. And then the very next verse, he tells us what we should be asking for. Really, he said, you should bear much fruit and truly be disciples. So there we go. We're supposed to be actually following Jesus and a part of disciple making movements. So at Life Action, we're asking for those things. And during COVID, we just started saying, Lord, we're not going to hide in the basement. But we got churches that won't use us right now. We're out wandering the country saying, here we are, Lord, what do you want to do? And it's been amazing watching how God is saying, hey, I'm not confused. I'll put you where I need you to be. And you and I, we've sometimes gone, Lord, what do we do? Where do we go in the midst of COVID? And then not one, not two, not three, but 4 cities have reached out, to us. We didn't approach them saying, hey, can you help us see the kind of move of God's Spirit that would change churches, but also would change the racial dynamics. That's what revival should do. And so, as you mentioned, you and I have been involved in Louisville and Memphis and cities in Texas as well, which we'll be picking back up in the fall. So if we'll actually believe, watch what God does, join him, we'll have plenty to do to see justice and unity and missional fruit. But instead, I think often wake up in the morning to figure out who we can defeat on Twitter or who we can elect. And again, this is fleshly, self-centered problem solving, and God's not honoring it in the Western church. So we get to decide if we're going to join what he's doing in the third world, move east in our hearts and in our perspective, or just continue on until one day we can gather the evangelicals left in a closet somewhere and fight it out to the end.
Yeah. You'd mentioned something, and you've posted a lot on Facebook about it during the election cycle, and probably one of the more controversial topics in our culture today is just maybe how Christianity in America has in some ways co-opted with a political movement and certain political trends that I think, and maybe you feel this way, maybe you don't, you're certainly welcome to speak to it, but I think it's has weakened the church in our witness and also in our focus for our mission because of our alignment with certain political tendencies that we consider to be, oh, well, this is what God would want, and so therefore these are God's people, and so therefore we're going to jump whole scale into this and enfranchise that instead of more of a kingdom mindset. I know you've written a little bit about that, but maybe talk to us about where you kind of sit with some of that and kind of how
Yeah.
you see that in our day.
Yeah, I was a pastor for decades, and I've supported many people who have felt called into the political realm. I don't think that's wrong, but I read something, I can't remember who wrote it, but it was very recent. It came out of Gospel Coalition, I think, saying there should be some of us who are mainly behind the scenes saying, what do we need to do in the political realm to protect, to guard, to work toward justice. But for most of us, we are called to a kingdom mentality, not a nationalistic mentality. As far as I know, there's no a new Washington D.C. in heaven. It's a new Jerusalem, and so I have political opinions like everybody else. I want to vote, be a good citizen, and do my best. But I don't know if the Lord wants to save America. I mean, he judged his own people. Well, could it be dangerous to say we got to save America, save America, save America? Is that my job? Is that the job of the church? If God may want to judge us, we may find ourselves fighting against him, for goodness sakes. It may have been a bunch of people wanted to save Jerusalem just as Babylon was invading, but it wasn't going to work. And so I think our greater call is to kingdom advance. And if I'm a patriot, I was a chaplain at Ground Zero, for goodness sakes. If the Lord, if we want to be a part of, quote, saving America, in my opinion, the best way to do that is advance the kingdom. Again, go after what Jesus prayed for, unity and mission. And that may be the best road to the kind of awakening that could save America if God wants to. But I'm with you, Erskine. I'm troubled on either side. I'm equally opportunity troubled. that when people are, we've got to elect this person or advance these positions. And a lot of those folks, if I get really real with them, I'll say, what are you involved in yourself that is actually caring for the broken and the hurting, that actually enacts justice? When's the last time you actually shared the gospel? Some folks, if I'm close enough to challenge them on that, it's not very pretty what you see. And so I want to be able to get down in the dirt. And I think if every child of God in this nation right now had nothing whatsoever to do with politics, but this day mentored a broken child, was involved in a justice initiative that actually brought healing to broken places, and shared the gospel with folks that were actually watching how they love, not how they argue, I think we'd be much more likely to see America change and revival come than with the current path we've taken.
Woo! That is good, brother. That is good. Yeah, our hearts are very similar with regards to that, and mission and passion are very similar as well. And so I'm not going to take up any more of your time today. Like I said, you have a busy schedule. You're up there in Michigan. Tell everybody I said hello.
I'll do it, man.
And they can check out the Erskin Music Show in reverse.
There you go. We love you, brother.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'm going to sign off here, but we will be partnering together in several different ministry platforms and places. And so I will talk from time to time about John Avant. I just want you guys to know who he was, so that when I'm talking about Life Action and partnering with Life Action, you guys can be praying for us and the different things that we find ourselves doing all around the country and eventually perhaps all around the world in sharing the gospel. And so thank you, brother, for your friendship. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your encouragement. And thank you for challenging me to step outside of my comfort zone, watch some things and wrestle with some things. I'm still wrestling with some things there about what's going on in different places in the world and thinking, have I missed something? Have I maybe invented something? And so that's a good wrestling and a good stirring, because the Lord is obviously in that.
That's right, man. Thank you, friend. Can't wait to see how God lets us serve together in these days ahead.
Amen. Tell everybody hello.
Same here, man.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So that was John Avant from Life Action Ministry. He's the president of Life Action Ministry, and they're doing a tremendous job. Go check out the information is in the show notes for today. Go check out their ministry. If you're a pastor that's out there, if you're a ministry that's out there, school, university, whoever it is, bring a Life Action team in, and you will see how they will be able to refresh your people that are there, just from the simple standpoint of, our hands are to the plow. That's how we do ministry all the time. We got to keep these things and keep these plates spinning, but they will come and refresh you because you will be able to take your hands off of it. And then you will be able to watch literally as this team gets involved in the contours of your church or your organization or your university, school, college, whatever place they serve. You will watch how they are able to just revive different things that are going on there. And then by the time that they leave, whether that's 4 days, 8 days, couple of weeks, you will see the whole culture of your organization, church, school, just reset in what it is that they are doing. And you will leave, and all your people will leave better off than when they came. And so really love that ministry, really love the students that are involved in that. And they're doing some tremendous things at a young age, raising their own support. They're missionaries here in the United States. And so it's an incredible thing to be able to see, find out some more information about Life Action. And John has written a ton of books. And so check out some of his books as well. Wonderful writer, fantastic speaker, revival preacher, and just doing a lot of different things to encourage the family of God. And so great to have him on the show today. He'll be back. He's a friend of the show. Like I said, Life Action, they're a brand sponsor. And so we will hear and see more from him. All right, now we're about to shut things down for today. Like I said before, this is the Erskin Music Show. The comment section will be turned on until the end of the show. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for the Way Forward broadcast. And we may have some special guests that pop in tomorrow as well. So thank you guys for all joining us. This has been a fantastic week. We've gotten to a lot of topics. You guys have been extremely gracious in that. And we'll just continue on all the more as we see to encourage each other all the more as we see the day approaching. Thank you guys so much. It's been the Way Forward Show. I'm looking for my little icon here so I can get that Texas flag up there as soon as possible. Just in case you guys didn't know where I was from. I had somebody ask me the question, Erskin, where'd you say you were from? Where did I say I was from? Huh? All right. Sorry, it's a Texas thing. Erskin Music Show.